The clinking of silverware was the only sound in my parents' dining room. It was Sunday, mandatory family dinner night, the night where my mom pretended we were a picture-perfect American family from some Hallmark movie, even though we'd been cracked at the center for years. My older sister, Claire, sat across from me, effortlessly elegant in that way she'd been trained to be since birth. She was the golden child, straight-A student, varsity cheer captain, married a dentist. I was the creative disappointment, as my mother once whispered to my aunt when she thought I couldn't hear. I heard, and I never forgot. Tonight, though, something was different. I had walked in with a decision already made, something bold simmering in my chest. But before I could even speak, my mom beat me to the punch. You know, she said, setting her fork down dramatically, you're not half the woman your sister is. My fingers froze around my napkin. She didn't say it angrily. She said it casually, like it was a fact. Like the sky was blue, the grass was green, and I would always be the lesser daughter. Claire's eyes widened. Mom, but the damage was done. I pushed my chair back slowly, deliberately. The legs screeched across the tile, slicing through the silence. Well, I said, my voice steady, if that's how you feel, then she can start paying your rent. My mom's face drained of color. Dad's fork slipped from his hand and clattered onto the plate. Rent, he choked. What rent? Mom's jaw tightened. She looked at him, then at me, like I had just exposed something she'd sealed in cement. I folded my arms. Yeah. The $2,000 rent I've been secretly covering for the past 14 months so you two wouldn't get evicted. Claire gasped. Dad turned entirely pale, eyes darting between us as if the truth had slapped him harder than any words ever could. You've been paying our rent, he whispered. No, Dad, I said, grabbing my purse. I was paying your rent. Past tense. I could feel my mother's fear rise like heat off pavement. She opened her mouth to speak, maybe to apologize, maybe to manipulate, I couldn't tell, but I wasn't staying long enough to find out. You think I'm not half the woman Claire is? I said. Fine. Then figure out how to afford your home without me. And with that, I walked out of the house they could no longer afford to lose. They just didn't know it yet. The next morning, my phone exploded with notifications, 10 missed calls from Dad, 8 from Mom, and 3 from Claire. I ignored them all. I was done being the family ATM. I was done being the daughter who saved everything quietly while being insulted loudly. At 8:12 a.m., my doorbell rang, opened it to find Claire standing there with a coffee in each hand. Before you slam the door, she said, at least take the caramel latte you like. I stepped aside. She came in, looking more rattled than I'd ever seen her. Mom lost it after you left, she said, handing me the coffee. She said you embarrassed her. Dad barely said a word. He's in shock. Good, I said. It's time they wake up. She sat on my couch, chewing her lip. Why didn't you tell me? Or them? I shrugged. Because I knew exactly how Mom would react. She'd say it was my responsibility as the younger daughter or some nonsense. You know how she gets. Claire winced. Yeah. I do. There was something in her tone and guilt, maybe shame. Look, she said softly, I know Mom compares us. And maybe she always made me feel like the favorite. But I never wanted that. And I definitely didn't know they were using you. I sat down beside her. They weren't supposed to be using me. It was supposed to be temporary, while Dad recovered from his surgery, while Mom's job hunt stabilized. But then Dad got better. Mom found part-time work. And somehow, I was still the one paying. Claire shook her head. They should have told me. And they should have treated you better. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she exhaled. Okay. So, what's your plan? My plan, I said, is to step back. They need to face the consequences of depending on me while calling me a failure. Claire hesitated. I get it. And you're right. But Dad, he's not the villain here. He just doesn't know anything. I nodded. I know. And Mom, she asked. I smirked. Oh, she's going to learn the hard way. As if on cue, my phone buzzed. A text from Dad, we need to talk. Please. I didn't know. I'm sorry, Claire read it too and sighed. You should hear him out. Maybe, I said. But not yet. I turned my phone face down, because my revenge wasn't done, not even close. 2 days later, my parents' landlord called me, just giving you a courtesy update, he said. The rent is late. Again. I smiled to myself. I won't be paying it this time. He paused. They said you always do. Not anymore. He cleared his throat. Understood. I'll notify them. Perfect. That evening, I finally agreed to meet my parents. We gathered in the same dining room where Mom had humiliated me 48 hours earlier. This time, I didn't sit. I stood. Dad looked exhausted. Mom looked furious, but underneath that, scared. Terrified. Why didn't you tell me? Dad asked quietly. I had no idea you were paying that much. Because every time I tried to help this family, I said, I got criticized for not being enough. Mom's mouth tightened. I raised an eyebrow. Really? You literally told me I'm not half the woman Claire is. She opened her mouth, then shut it. Dad looked at her sharply. Mary. You said that? She looked away. It slipped out. No, I said. It was exactly how you feel. The room shifted, then I pulled out a printed document and placed it on the table. What's this? Mom asked. Your new lease terms, I said. Since you expect Claire to be the better daughter, she can handle them now. Claire, who'd insisted on being there, stepped forward. Actually, she said, I won't be paying anything. Not a cent. Mom jerked her head toward her. Excuse me? Mom, Claire said firmly, you don't get to insult one daughter and then expect the other to financially rescue you. I'm done enabling you too. Mom stared at her, stunned. You're both ungrateful. Dad shook his head. No, Mary. They're right. We've relied on them too much. Especially on her. He looked at me. And I'm sorry. Truly. For the first time, I saw real shame in his eyes. And gratitude. Mom, however, still shook with indignation. I leaned forward. Mom, this is the moment you decide whether you want daughters or dependents. If you keep comparing us, if you keep treating me like I'm less, you'll lose both of us. Silence, then Claire added, and the rent is now your responsibility, not ours. Dad nodded slowly. We'll figure it out. I turned to leave. Claire followed behind us. Mom whispered, wait, please. But I didn't stop, because sometimes the strongest revenge isn't destroying someone, letting them face the life they created without the person they took for granted, and for the first time in my life, I felt whole.